These celebrities have absolutely lost it on camera and they really don't want you to know about it, but let's get into it, shall we? Kanye West and Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan went from condemning to fawning over Kanye West in an interview on his Piers Uncensored show, praising the rapper, even after West said he was absolutely not sorry for his anti-Semitic remarks. The rapper calls Morgan a Karen, adding, "You don't hold accountability to my pain." Morgan replied by saying, "I'm not a Karen and I'm not going to cancel you and I'm not going to censor you. I'm simply going to challenge you on what you're saying." As Morgan tries to call out West on his anti-Semitic remarks and that, it is basically racism, West denies it. He eventually gets so mad and storms out, leaving Piers alone to wrap up the interview by himself. R. Kelly and Gayle King interview. When Gayle King interviewed R. Kelly on CBS this morning, among the questions King asked during the 80-minute interview was about a stop Kelly made after his February 25th release from a weekend in jail on SA charges. In the interview, which was Kelly's first since he was arrested, the singer is at times emotional and at other times very explosive. You can see him get up from his seat, have a tantrum. He says he's basically fighting for his life, and he had a big old crocodile tears running down his face while Gayle tried to calm him down. It was just another low point and moment for him, providing the internet with unlimited content for memes and jokes on Saturday Night Live. Sheen. In a rather strange interview with ABC in February of 2011, the actor blasted Two and a Half Men creator Chuck Lorre and proclaimed he was not bipolar but bi-winning. He also called Lorre a turd and a clown, and during this interview, Sheen explains that he has tiger blood, and when he was asked the last time he used, he said, "I don't use, but I do use a blender and I use a vacuum cleaner," but ultimately he said he just can't remember the last time he used any illegal substances. From beginning to end, Sheen seems to celebrate his very obvious meltdown, leading many to fear for his actual physical and psychological health. Now, despite the controversy surrounding that whole interview, it gained him further popularity and actually gave the show the highest rating of the night. Boxer Mike Tyson went off on Toronto CP24 reporter Nathan Downer during a live interview. Downer brought up that the former athlete had met up with Toronto Mayor Rob Ford at the time and basically asked Tyson whether he thought his criminal record could damage his reputation of the mayor, who, by the way, actually admitted to smoking illegal substances during one of his drunken stupors. Tyson seemed very calm at first, but what came out of his mouth proved that the news host really got under his skin. He said to Downer, "You're being negative. You're really a piece of ish. F you." Now, Downer reminded Tyson that he was on live TV, but that didn't seem to faze the boxer, who basically responded saying, "I don't care. What are you going to do about it?" Now, the CP24 reporter tried to change the subject to Tyson's one-man show, Mike Tyson Undisputed Truth, but the celeb wasn't having it and continued to curse at Downer, calling him a rat piece of ish, and that was pretty much the end of the interview. Chris Brown. In 2011, his Good Morning America appearance began with a smile, but he ultimately left angry and shirtless. The interview itself is very brief, with Robin Roberts focusing mostly on Brown's past and public image rather than his new album, which is what he was there to promote. Now, on camera, Brown stays focused. He even performs a song, but backstage, however, things took a turn and went sour when Roberts began, a conversation again asking about Rihanna. Now, the interview came 2 years after he pled guilty to charges, and Chris Brown was clearly not pleased that his past just, kept being brought up. So Brown didn't appreciate Robin Roberts prying about the situation with Rihanna at all and all the hate he got. So he had a very public meltdown. Brown basically stormed backstage after the whole interview was done, ripped his shirt off, and smashed a window with a chair, causing it to shatter and, for shards of glass to basically fall on the street. Security was called to the scene, but by the time they actually arrived, a shirtless Brown was just already headed out the door. The Bee Gees in 1997, during their appearance on Clive Anderson All Talk, the Bee Gees found themselves at the receiving end of the host's jokes about their music. Within mere seconds of commencing the interview, Clive likened the group's distinctive high falsetto to Mickey Mouse and humorously suggested that the Bee Gees, renowned hitmakers, were only one letter shy of being hit writers. Now, the breaking point for Barry Gibb and his brothers, Rob Robin and Maurice came when the host actually forgot their hit records, prompting them to basically stand up and abruptly leaving the show. Joan Rivers. In 2014, the late Joan Rivers made headlines when she very dramatically exited a CNN interview. Now, CNN host Frederica Whitfield was accusing Joan of being mean in some of her harsh fashion critiques, which appeared to ruffle the comedian's feathers. Now, Frederica continued to challenge Joan as she said, "You're not really worried about feelings getting hurt." To which, Joan replied saying, "Well, not when it's about dresses. It's not about them. It's about the clothing," not backing down basically on her questioning. Now, touching on sensitive topics, appearing in Joan's book that she was promoting at the time, the guest made a very abrupt exit. But before abruptly walking out of her interview, Joan yelled at the interviewer and said, "Stop it with your mean this, your mean that. You are not the one to interview a person who does humor. Sorry." And she basically stormed out, left the interviewer shocked and in disbelief, asking, "Is this real?" Gary Coleman. Volatile performer Gary Coleman got himself back in the news again after walking off in the middle of an interview on The Insider. Now, Coleman refused to answer a question asked by panelist and attorney Lisa Bloom as to whether he has a toxic relationship with his wife. He suggested it was ridiculous as he is 4'7" and his wife is 5'6". He let it rip on Bloom before storming away, which was kind of unhelpful when you're trying to deny stories that suggest you may have issues in your relationship. The former Diff'rent Strokes star was arrested on an outstanding warrant after police received a domestic disturbance call from his house. It follows just though a string of stories in the media over domestic issues and run-ins with the law for him. Jennifer Lawrence appeared to have had a very stern word with a journalist who was using his phone during her winner's press conference at the Golden Globes. Now, the actress, who at the time won Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy for David O. Russell's film Joy, was speaking to a crowded room of reporters backstage when the moment occurred. The journalist in question was Juan Pablo Fernandez Fio, who was covering the LA event for E! News. Now, as he began to ask his question, Lawrence interrupted, wagging her finger at him, saying, "You can't just live your life behind your phone, bro. You can't do that. You've got to live in the now." Now, as the crowd laughed, of course, Fernandez Fio apologized before continuing. He said, "How do you see yourself for Oscar night?" Now, interrupting him again, Lawrence said, "We're at the Golden Globes. If you put your phone down, you'd know that." Now, it is believed that the reporter, who can be heard speaking with a very strong accent, was reading a question from his phone. While the reason behind the phone usage is uncertain, the reporter's Twitter account is full of retweets slamming the actress's actions. Was this one joke just a little too far for the actress? I mean, I think, yeah, because people took to social media to express their outrage and disgust over the situation, calling her rude. Billie Joe Armstrong. Now, if for 1 minute you thought Billie Joe Armstrong was Justin Bieber, he certainly put you straight at the 2012 iHeartRadio Festival. There's still quite some argument about what led to this rock star's outburst, but the general, gist is that Armstrong and his band Green Day had been allotted a 45-minute set at the event, only to have their time cut short because Usher took up too much. If true, then it clearly didn't go down well with him. Armstrong launched into a very explosive-filled tirade that ended with him smashing his guitar on stage. The band later apologized, of course, for the incident, but we gotta say it was very rock and roll. Last but not least, we have David Hasslehoff. Now, in 2007, a video surfaced showing a very drunk and shirtless David Hasslehoff struggling to eat a hamburger while lying on the floor. These things all came together to form a recipe of pure WTF am I watching. Now, it turned out the Baywatch star's daughter, Taylor Ann, had made the video to show her dad the seriousness of his drinking problem. While it was not a fun experience for the Hoff, he later said the video played a very pivotal role in his recovery journey and acknowledged that the public exposure served as kind of a wake-up call. As you watch the former Baywatch star at his absolute worst, you can hear his daughter pleading with him to stop drinking as he very clumsily eats the burger while sprawled out on the floor. So yeah, deeply undignified. The video, was a form of tough love. And, Hasslehoff was attempting to recover from his substance disorder, but, he was actually caught mid-relapse during what ended up being one heck of a meme-worthy wake-up call. cycle. Now, Hasslehoff's battles with, substance abuse go back to at least 2002 when he first entered rehab. So he briefly lost visitation rights after that video surfaced, but he since has had them restored. Now, as of this year, reports indicate that he remains committed to his sobriety. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, which one shocked you the most? Let me know. I'm your host, Ashley. It's been great catching up.